What's up? Hope everyone's having a good day and is ready for another video in the series we like to call Underrated Throwers. Today we got Conor McCullough, one of my personal favorite throwers just to watch because I just love the way his technique looks. But I also think he's very underrated because, a lot of American hammer throwers, before the past, couple years haven't really been known if you're not Kibwe Johnson. But I think Conor McCullough is mainly known for his weight throw. And I think he might still hold the weight throw high school record at like 28 meter plus. But what people probably don't know is that he also holds, I don't know if he still holds the records. He held them at least at one point. He holds the records for the weight throw in the 11 pound, 12 pound, 13 pound, and 16 pound. I know the 16 pound has been broken. But that's crazy to hold a record in 4 different weight categories, as well. And he also threw 76 meters in college, and he threw 78 meters as a pro. He was a Olympian in 2016 Rio, where he unfortunately finished only 16th place, but he was the highest ranking American. And he's just been around for a minute. I've had the pleasure of actually seeing him in competition throw an 18 pound over 70 meters, which was insane to me because that was the first time I've seen a 70 meter throw in person, and that was a treat to watch. And he's just a freak athlete. He is explosive, he is long. He's not very big, which is what I find interesting. But the reason I feel he's underrated is just because I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for, because this was kind of a dark age in American hammer throw, because we haven't really had good American hammer throwers since like the 90s until like I would say 2020 plus. What I mean by good is like people who do stuff in international competition. I guess Kibwe would be the only one for making like a world and Olympic final. But I think Conor goes kind of unrecognized because, he just competed in one of the most dominant eras in hammer throw. You had to be throwing 82 plus meters to even have a chance of doing anything in terms of medals in international competition, which is insane. A PR, you don't have to throw that in comp, but you look at the medalist during this time. So he competed in I would say the era of 2008 to 2019, I think is his last meet. I think so. And just think about all the names, all the distances. It's crazy. So it's unfortunate. I think that he would get a lot more recognition nowadays. He'd probably be probably one of the third best hammer throwers for the U.S. Behind Rudy and Ha, but. It's unfortunate, but, he still did great things, and he was one of the first people I looked to in hammer throw because I just loved the way his technique looked. And another unique thing about him is that he's a 3-turner. So, you usually see 3-turners, and they're usually a lot bigger than him. I think he's pretty tall, though. From my recollection, I think he's 6'4" plus. I think so. But he's kind of built kind of like Katzberg a little bit. But I think... I'm not going to say he has better technique than him because that's kind of crazy to say, but I just like the way he moves a lot more. I think he just moves a lot more textbook, but we're going to get into that. Skipping far ahead, sorry. Yeah, that's the reason I think he's underrated. I just don't think he gets his just dues. I don't think a lot of people, especially younger people growing up in the sport, just don't know who he is, and I think he deserves the right to be known. He was a big inspiration to me because, he was the first person I ever saw throw a hammer far. Because, I've competed against 60-meter guys, but I've never seen... There's a difference between someone that throws 60 meters and someone that throws 70 meters. And if you ever get the chance to watch someone throw 70 meters plus, I don't care if it's women or men. Men, it's a little bit more crazy, but... no diss to the woman, but it's just different because it's a 16-pound ball. it's just different. Like if you get a chance to watch elite throwers, like I've had the privilege of watching like Sean Donnelly, um, Al Saif, Asaraf from Qatar, um, throw over 76 meters in the same meet. That was pretty insane. I've had the chance of watching a whole bunch of 70-meter hammer throwers plus. Um, and I have the pleasure of working with someone who is not coaching, but actually like working with someone who's throwing over 74 meters in Jim Driscoll. And it's crazy to just hear him talk about the differences in like a 70-meter thrower compared to a 60-meter thrower, and you can see it. It's just like watching the difference between like a 18-meter shot putter and like a 21 plus meter shot putter. I mean, I've seen Ryan Krauser throw 22.74 in 2019 at Long Beach. It's different. You know, I've watched Daniel Stahl throw like 67 plus. Like it's crazy when you see these guys in person throw. They just they just have a different pop to them. You know, like it's so hard to explain. You just gotta witness it. So if you get the chance to watch one of those guys throw, do it, because it's honestly mind blowing. It changes your perspective about, oh, like you think you're fast, but you're really not. I used to think I was super fast in hammer, throwing like 44 meters because it felt really fast. And then I saw someone throw 60. I was like, okay, I'm slow. And then I saw someone throw 70. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not very good. So it kind of changes your perspective and kind of humbles you a little. But yeah. So let's get into this technique. All right. So winds, kind of a wide starter. So 3-turn. I don't know if I've done a video on a 3-turner, but there are differences between a 3-turn and a 4-turn. Because one, as you're gonna see, he has a higher high point. All right. So compared to a 4-turner, because you know it's one less turn. So basically, he has to produce the energy required on like the second turn of a 4-turn on his first turn. All right. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna be wind. So he does a step in, a little step in. But you notice when he does the step in here, the ball is making him do that. So he's not just stepping with his foot. The ball is pulling him forward. And then he gets under it. Really, really nice counter here. And then you're going to see a distinct difference. So already the ball is way lower than what a traditional 4-turner be. Traditional 4-turner, the low point would be like up here somewhere. But his is like all the way down here. And he gets here, and he is so far back. Again, because, one, he has to wind harder. He can't take it easy because he's a 3-turner. So you see people like Yuri Sadiq and like Conor McCullough. What are some other 3-turners? I can't think of some off the top of my head right now. There's a bunch. Mostly in like the 80s and 90s. You don't really see many 3-turners nowadays, especially in the men. There's like one or two. And yeah, like you just got to produce more force because you have one less turn to produce that force. So you know, 4-turn, you know, you can kind of take it a little easy and use it to set up the rest of your turns. You cannot do that on a 3-turn. You got to go immediately. All right, else you're just not going to throw far. So you tend to see 3-turners wind with significantly more force than a 4-turner and really push that down. Boom. Right there. But he still lets it past him. Alright, but this is like the position you're in like your second or third turn. But and you see this a lot more with 3-turners, he is way more far back than a traditional 4-turner. Alright, because again, he's producing more force earlier, so he has to counter earlier. Alright, and really, he started countering here. So you notice right here, he sits back, sits in the chair. So he sits back against that hammer. Boom. Now, I personally don't like a wider foot, but again, that's just a personal preference thing. I don't really care as long as, like, what am I going to say to someone who throws 78 meters? Like, nah, start a little differently. He's like, I think he knows himself and his technique by now. If you're throwing that far. So, you know, I'm sure he's been through, like, trials and errors about starting just like everybody. But yeah, so whatever works for you. Some people start really wide. Some people don't. Conor is probably about as wide as you get in terms of a start and hammer. A lot of people start pretty narrow because especially if you're beginners. I like doing that simply just because if they come from a shot put and discus background, it's very easy if they start wide to just sweep and just use too much of their hip and their legs. All right, so here, really nice. Then normally I also don't like people starting really wide because it's very easy to just extend this left knee. All right, and just use too much of your left side because you're not on top of it that much. But, you know, he does a great job of keeping it slightly bent. Really, really low here. So this high point is like a second turn high point in a 4-turn. All right, so, but, you know, he has to do it way earlier. So it's really, really good. Really nice position here. This is a textbook position. Super far back, super long in the arms. All right. Catches there. And you notice, so here, he's just hanging on the ball. Just hanging on the ball. If you try and add stuff, add force and move your body while it's in... First of all, you shouldn't really move your body at all. The ball moves you. You shouldn't be twisting and going side to side with your body at all in hammer. But especially when you're in single support. So here, that is not good because, you know, you're not balanced. You're imbalanced because, you know, you're on the edge of your foot. So if he tried to pull or push, he's just going to crash and throw down, and it's not going to be very good, and he's going to lose speed, and he's going to lose balance, and he's going to lose positioning. All right? So you want to, once you get into single support, you kind of just ride the ball. All right? Just like in shot put and discus, you only can produce force while you have 2 feet on the ground. 1 foot, you're not going to produce force. And it's the same thing. It's just physics, all right? It's just physics. All right? You're stronger on 2 feet than on 1 foot. 2 feet, you're balanced. 1 foot, you're imbalanced. And especially going the speeds required to throw as far as he does, you can't. You just can't. So you got to hang on the ball. All right? Hang. So now he can produce force. So this is a beautiful catch position. Catches a little early before 90. So very nice catch there. And then uses all that time. And you notice he's not just going around. It's very hard to see because of the quality of this video, but he goes out. He's reaching out with his hands. All right, very, very hard to do. All right, especially at these speeds. So he's reaching out. He's not just going around in a circle. So you notice every time he puts his foot down, he's gonna sit back. So he's gonna actually physically, like, you gotta think about like sitting in a chair, squatting backwards or walking backwards. All right, so boom, right there. So as he goes back, and the hammer in his right side is pushing the rotationally as he's sitting back, that's going to dramatically speed up the hammer. Boom, right there. And then he sits. Right there. Hang. Sit. Hang. Alright. And you can really see this when you see it in just regular speed. You notice how every time he puts down that foot, the ball accelerates through the low point, and that's what you want. All right. And you notice also on every turn that he gets lower and lower. That's because the ball is getting higher and higher, and the higher the ball is, the more you have to counter. Now, you don't want it too high. 3-turners tend to have a higher orbit, just a little bit, simply just because it's just a 3 turn, so you don't get the 4 turns to build up an orbit. So you got to just build up the orbit a little earlier. That's why you got to wind a little differently, and you got to push through the low point a little differently at the start. Like him, like this is not really I would like a 4-turner to be a little flatter than this. But, he's a 3-turner, so it's a little different. And on his 3rd turn, you can really see the hang right here. Hang. And honestly, I see a lot of similarities for him and Koji. And, they kind of threw in kind of the same era. Koji's obviously older than him. But even in just the way they start, like, Koji starts like this. A lot of people start like this. But honestly, he kind of has the same orbit, too, as Koji. Because Koji has an insane high point on his first turn for a 4-turner. But, he throws a lot similar to him. Like a really high right foot as he's hanging, which I personally like a lower foot, but it doesn't really matter. Like, if you do this naturally, as long as you can move. This right here is a crazy position. So you notice the head back. Now, normally people do this. Normally people see this and they just think, oh, I'm just pull my head back and it'll elongate my arms. This is just a natural thing that happens to your head because you're long. So it's a reaction. All right? He's not physically moving his head side to side or back and forth. All right? It's just a causation that happens. It's just a reaction from just being so long and trying to counter the forces, all right, that the ball is producing right here. All right, so he gets here and boom. All right. So it's crazy the forces that he has and the forces he produces. And one of the reasons I really love to watch him is because you can really see the fundamentals a lot easier, because you can just see the sit. You can see that he's just always on balance. Every single turn, just completely on balance. He does all the fundamentals correctly, which is why I think he's a really good technical model, because he does all the basic stuff about as good as it gets, basically. I mean, like, you can't really ask for better than this. Again, that's also why he throws 78 meters. And I think it's just easier to see with him because it's kind of exaggerated a little because he's a 3-turner. So, when I show like beginners video, I tend to show a lot of Conor McCullough, simply just because it's just easier for them with the untrained eye to see the stuff that I talk about, with like sitting in the chair, getting lower each turn, really countering the ball, really having the ball long, not ripping on the ball, the hang on the ball. It's all there. It's super easy to see with Conor. So, yeah. Other than that, I mean, there's not really. Especially this throw. I just filmed this throw because they always film him from the side, and I really hate that. So this is one of the only throws I could find from the back. I don't know how far he even threw here, but it doesn't really matter. It was over 70. I can guarantee you that. But yeah. I mean, overall, it's just a beautiful technique. I think he's a really good technical model because he's just a basic thrower. Doesn't do a lot of quirky things. A lot of hammer throwers don't really do a lot of quirky things just because there's not really that much room for it compared to shot put and discus. Because there's just not a lot of stuff you can get away with in hammer compared to shot put and discus. Basically everyone does this kind of the same things. You do get some quirks here and there, just like every sport, but for the most part, they all basically do this. But he honestly throws a lot like Koji, but without some of the unique things Koji does. So, it's really good. I love it. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend watching Conor McCullough, especially because if you're a beginner, you're probably going to start with a 3-turn, simply just because, it's just easier. But yeah, it's great fundamentals, great fundamentals. Does basically, if I had to make a textbook and just list all the things I listed, this is what I call textbook technique. So yeah, other than that, really nice. So I will link his personal best, height, weight, if I can find them. Sometimes it's hard to find those. And notable accomplishments in the video description. And I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching.